Hello, dear listeners of the Comprehensible Australian Podcast, and I should also say viewers of the Comprehensible Australian Podcast, because today's episode will be available as both an audio podcast and a video podcast. Today's episode is about e-bikes and e-scooters. What do you think? Before I start today's episode, please remember to subscribe to me on YouTube. I also have TikTok, I have Spotify and Instagram, as well as Apple Podcasts. So please support me. Your support lets me know that the work I'm doing is good and useful and makes me want to continue doing this podcast. So I really appreciate all the support so far. But if you haven't done so already, please subscribe to me somewhere. And I see every single subscribe, every single view, and I really appreciate it. Okay, so let's get started. I was interested in this podcast topic because on my way here to the library to record this podcast, I saw lots of people on e-scooters. What's an e-scooter? An e-scooter is similar to a bike, but you stand up. You don't sit on it, you stand on it. That is a scooter. You use a scooter to go from one place to another place. Now, in the past, scooters were not electric. Scooters were manual only. They didn't use electricity, and you had to power the scooter using your foot. You used your foot to move the scooter. The Victorian government has a scooter program with two companies. Those two companies, the scooter companies, are Lime and Neuron. These are the names of companies. Lime is a green coloured company. Their logo is green, and Neuron is a orange coloured company. Their logo is orange. I personally like to use their scooters. Their scooters are a lot of fun, and I sometimes use them to get to the train station or get to a place really quickly. Some people have their own e-scooters. You can buy them from stores like JB Hi-Fi or other electronics stores. However, at the moment, the Victorian government has set a speed limit on these vehicles. You can only ride the e-scooters to a maximum of 20 kilometers per hour. This is quite slow. If you think about cars can drive up to about 100 kilometers per hour, but e-scooters can drive up to only 20 kilometers per hour, so it's quite slow. These e-scooters have been really controversial in the news lately. Lots of people in the news have been talking about these e-scooters, and lots of people are for e-scooters and lots of people are against e-scooters. Personally, I'm for e-scooters, but I think there are some major problems. One, lots of e-scooters are found on the streets, and it makes the streets unsafe and ugly. It's not very nice to be looking at e-scooters on the street in the middle of the street. Two, safety. I'm not really sure that e-scooters are being used safely. People are not using e-scooters safely. E-scooters have lots of rules. One rule is one person at a time. Only one person can ride an e-scooter, not two. But I often see couples or two people riding an e-scooter at the same time. It is illegal and it's very unsafe. But if so many people are riding e-scooters, two people at a time, how are the police going to solve this problem? I don't know. More on safety, lots of people ride e-scooters without a helmet. This is also really unsafe. I always wear a helmet. it's really easy to fall off an e-scooter. In fact, at hospitals in Melbourne, um, emergency doctors are saying they're seeing at least one injury per day caused by an e-scooter, and lots of these injuries are preventable if you wear a helmet or only have one person on the e-scooter at a time. Thirdly, I think safety infrastructure is another aspect to consider. Safety infrastructure is dedicated lanes. Bikes have dedicated lanes. If you go to the city, you will see a lane for cars and a lane for bikes. However, some people have been riding their e-scooters on the footpath or riding their e-scooters on the road with cars. It is legal to ride on the road with cars, but it's not very safe. But it's okay in the CBD because the speed limit is quite slow. However, I highly disagree with people who ride e-scooters on the footpath. I think it's really quite dangerous. You can run into an old person or even a young person and cause serious injuries. I have seen lots of injuries due to e-scooter accidents on footpaths in the news. So, what are the positives of e-scooters? Well, e-scooters work on electricity. The energy could be made sustainably using solar or wind, and that can be used to charge your e-scooter. So, e-scooters could help the environment. Another aspect to consider is you don't need a license to ride an e-scooter. Riding an e-scooter is pretty simple. You hop on the scooter and you turn on the power and then you get going. You can go. Compare this to getting a car license. In most cases, getting a car license takes about 2 years. It took me 2 years to get my car license. So, e-scooters are a good option for people who don't have cars because they're cheaper, or people who don't have licenses because you don't need to get a license to ride an e-scooter. I think the e-scooter is the way of the future. We also have e-bikes. I think e-bikes are a little bit safer than e-scooters. I have ridden e-bikes, and the companies Lime and Neuron also have e-bikes available. I quite like the e-bikes. I feel a lot safer on them, and they also have a basket where you can put your belongings, like a bag or something that you've bought from the shops. So what do you think? Do you think e-bikes are safe? Do you think e-scooters are safe? Would you ride one of these e-scooters? Have you ridden one of these e-scooters? Let me know in the comments. Okay, I'll see you next time. Bye.